Hey, everyone, thanks for coming today. We are going to go ahead and get started. My name is Sarah Graybill. I'll be talking about accessibility today. I kind of looked in the chat and saw the conversation going on, so I'm not sure this is targeted more for beginner and intermediate, and if you already work in accessibility, it might be a little basic, but if you have any questions, I'd be happy to go over them. I know there's 2 online and 3 here, so honestly, if you have questions, want to talk about something in the middle of it, just unmute and we can take it wherever it needs to go. Let me go ahead and pull up the presentation. Okay. Let's see. So we are just going to be going over making your WordPress website accessible. We're going to be talking about first an existing WordPress website, and then second, if you're starting a website from scratch. My name is Sarah Graybill. I own Graybill Creative. I started it in 2010. I am a wife and mother to a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old. Graybill Creative, we focus on development. We do everything pretty much after design when it comes to websites. We will build them out, troubleshoot, add functionality, whatever it is you're needing. We are also working with agencies to start adding accessibility to their websites, especially as it's becoming more and more required and a necessity. So there are 2 ways. First, accessibility is making it easier for users to view your website, learn the information you're conveying, and do whatever it is you're trying to get them to do on your website. There are 2 ways to see how your website is doing with accessibility. There's automated testing. These are a few of the tools that are available right now. These tools will get you about 25% there. They do not test all the criteria on accessibility as well. They do not catch everything. And so this is a good place to start. You can use these tools to kind of get a feel for how your websites are doing. But it's always going to be critical to do manual testing as well. And that's going to be clicking through your website, using a keyboard to see how keyboard navigation is, using a screen reader to see if a screen reader can go through your website and access all the information. So it's not a easy, quick process, but to do it right, you're going to have to spend a little bit of time getting in there and really checking all the criteria and seeing how your website does. Why does it matter? So first, it matters for your users. It's not for just for users with disabilities. By making your website easier to read, easier to use, you're making it easier for everyone. That's people who have impaired vision. That is people who can't use a mouse and have to do everything with a keyboard. That's people who are just older and have a hard time with technology in general. We want to make sure our website is usable for everyone. It's going to help search engine optimization. A lot of the things that we do for accessibility, we also do for search engine optimization. So by improving your accessibility, you will improve your search engine ranking. It's also been shown that just by improving accessibility, you make it easier for your audience to find you. You give yourself a wider audience by making it easier for everyone to use your site, and you will increase conversions on your site. For the business side, it matters because there have been a lot of lawsuits lately. There are certain laws that reference accessibility, but that doesn't necessarily mean that just because the law doesn't apply to your site, people can still see you. We're seeing a lot of lawsuits happen, where there are certain states that have accessibility requirements, and because I saw one where 3% of their income came from Massachusetts, which does have an ADA requirement, and so they got sued. And said because 3% of your revenue on your e-commerce site came from Massachusetts, you have to follow the ADA compliance, and your site isn't accessible. So there is always the chance that a lawsuit could happen. I copied those extra points. So, and the same thing for the search engine optimization and increased visibility. So let's start with what to look for and how to make changes to an existing site. One of the easiest ways is to add alt text to an image. You're going to want to add text. You don't need to add, it's an image of, picture of, you don't need that in there. Just describe what is in the picture and describe it in such a way that helps whatever point you are talking about. You know, if you have a picture of a specific building on a university campus and you are talking about that building, then make sure you mention that building in the picture. If you're just talking about university life in general, you can talk about the people in the picture in front of the building. It doesn't have to necessarily reference the building. It needs to be applicable to what you're talking about in the surrounding text and why it's important. I would do this for every image, and this image right here is the media library in WordPress. That first box is where you would put the alt text for any image. Second, you're going to look at color contrast. This is a fun one because a lot of the time and this is what we went through on my website just now, you use your branding colors on your website, but your branding colors aren't necessarily accessible. And so you're going to have to sell sometimes to designers, to marketing teams, to owners that you need to adjust the colors on your website, even though they are your branding colors, because users can't read the site. This is webaim.org. They have a contrast checker. You put the first one is the color of the text. The second one is the background color, and it tells you the contrast ratio. And then it tells you underneath that where it passes and where it doesn't. This is extremely helpful when checking all the colors.
Is this a free tool or are you paying
Yes,
$80?
this is completely free. And so what we do is a lot of the time we will put branding colors in here. We can show the client that it passes here if you use large text sometimes, but not necessarily normal text. And then it also gives you a lightness and darkness scale. And so you can sometimes show that if you just darken that color, but still use a very similar color, it will suddenly become accessible. So sometimes that's a way to easily adjust the colors, but keep close to branding. For us, we actually went through and we updated our color palette to include a few more darker colors so that we could make sure and have pass accessibility on all of our marketing materials. Third thing to look at, and this is also going to be very helpful for search engine optimization, is heading structure. This allows screen readers to see the order of importance in a page. You only want to have one heading one. You want to have nesting headings under the others. So you can have several heading twos, and then under each heading two, you can have heading threes or heading fours. But just make sure they follow a logical order. And it'll help both Google and accessibility. There are a few more just extras that I was gonna throw in. So make sure that anything important, you're not indicating by just a color. So don't have the same icon in 2 different colors showing good or bad, yes or no, whatever it is. Have different icons, have different wording, have something. Don't show importance just by color, because if you're colorblind, that is absolutely not helpful. Make sure that the text you're using for buttons and links are descriptive and helpful. So don't just have 5 learn more buttons that go to 5 different pages. Make sure that people understand what happens if they click on that link. Make sure that the font is readable.
I actually have a question on the last one.
Yes.
What are your feelings on like the cutesy call to actions when people say, get my book now or join the list, but they're like not as clear as they could be? Would you favor that over like clarity over cutesy, even if it?
I think clarity is always more important. I think clarity is more important over cutesy when you're looking at buttons, at text, at colors, at fonts, all of it. Make sure the font is readable. I know people really want to have fun fonts on their sites, but they need to be readable. Whether you increase the text size, zoom in on a page, make sure everything translates. Yes.
On fonts, do you
Yes.
think serif or non-serif fonts are more readable?
Not Sarah.
Not,
Not.
I do too, yeah. I'm doing a website for somebody right now and he wanted a serif font. Oh, that just looks so much better. I said, look. So, yeah.
I mean, I've seen them, and I think it depends on the font. Lynn was asking if serif fonts are non-serif. I have seen serif fonts that are still okay. I just think a lot of them are harder to read.
I think in the heading, it's okay,
Yeah.
but, and kind of going along with that, some of the text, I want it to stand out more than just a paragraph, but I'll choose like a heading 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And it still doesn't look all that great.
Yeah.
So is there anything to do about that or?
I mean, if you're wanting to call out things, I would do it with design, put quotation marks, icons of some sort to get bigger, make it behind, on top of a colored background, just some kind of design element would be how I would do it.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Last thing is do not autoplay anything. Don't have videos, don't have podcasts, text, or any audio. Don't have anything autoplay. I don't know if you're like me where you open 4 tabs at once and then something starts speaking on your computer and you have to try to track down what tab is playing what and why. I don't know of anyone that likes that. So make sure you don't autoplay. So these are going to be, those are the easier steps to make sure that you start making your site accessible. These next steps are a little more advanced. Sometimes they're going to take a little bit of coding, or just knowing how to change the settings in your site. But if you've gone through and made all those other changes, this is the next steps. So make sure that you can navigate with your keyboard, refresh the site, and then just start hitting tab and make sure that it hits all the links, all the buttons, everything that is clickable. Make sure that you can get there with the keyboard. At the top, make sure that you have a skip to content so that they can skip the navigation, the sidebar, all the things. Make sure that your link and buttons have a focus state. So they need to show that if it's a link in text, make sure that it shows with something other than just a color, that it's clickable, have it underline something, and then have it change in some way when you click on it as well. Forms. Make sure that you have labels, which I know a lot of designers prefer not to have labels on forms, but they are needed for accessibility. A lot of the time, on email fields, if you take off the form and you have in the test@domain.com, that's what it reads to a screen reader. And so instead of email address or anything like that, and so they don't always know what to put there. And if there are error messages, make sure that they're clear and linked to the correct field so that they don't have to guess what the issue is, and it makes it even harder. Or plugin and theme audits. This one takes a little more work because you're going to have to do some research. So if you've done everything else, I would start going through your plugins and themes. And I will give you some resources at the end that they're who I go to. I was on one of them yesterday, and if you're looking for accessible forms, Gravity Forms is actually one of the better ones. They still have some problems. For example, their calendar field is completely inaccessible, but for the most part, they do a better job than others of being accessible. But they go through, these sites go through themes and plugins and page builders and all the things and let you know, they do the testing to see which ones are the most accessible. So you're going to want to look and see what if your theme is accessible, if not, why, and be proactive about fixing those things. And then all your plugins, your form plugin, e-commerce plugin, anything like that, you'll need to check the accessibility of it. Any questions about working with an existing site?
Oh, Tim told me this the other day. I need you to confirm. So when you upload a picture, you need to have the name of the picture correct before you upload it. Like, it doesn't help SEO if it's named incorrectly and then you fix the name and on the back end of the site.
Sorry, I was reading Tim's question.
That's okay. Well, do you want to answer his first?
Yeah, what about field labels on invisible captchas? I think if it's something they don't have to interact with. He says that's not what he said too. I think if it's something they don't have to interact with, it's fine. You don't need to put a field label on an invisible captcha because they don't have to do anything with it. I think it's more if they're expected to fill it out or do some kind of interaction, that needs it.
Okay, that is helpful. So my next question is, when you upload a photo to the site, because I'm making it cute, if my photo is the wrong name when I upload it, if I change the name in the back end, that doesn't help my SEO. It has to be named correctly when I put it in there.
So
Tim should know that.
Well,
yeah, he's answering it right.
I just needed to double check the facts. What do you see? I can't read that.
What does he say?
Stop fighting with me, probably.
It helps if you do it from the beginning, but you don't have to. The alt text is going to be the most important, but it also looks at the title and it reads the title. So,
And I've heard that you should make your name not IMG_6054.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I tried.
which also helps with SEO.
Yeah.
But on your existing sites, like if somebody said, can you, like, let's pretend they said accessibility audit, or can you tell me what's wrong with my website? Because they don't even know the words accessibility audit. Do I need, if they haven't done this with any of their images, do I tell them they're basically cooked and they need to redo their website, or what?
No, honestly, there are plugins that will let you go in and change the title. So what I would start doing is, if you're starting from scratch on a site that has 3,000 images.
Oh my God.
Start on one page, pick a page, and I would, the one that gets the most traffic, and just start working through it.
All work. Okay.
Yeah. Alt text is going to be the most important. I mean, titles are good, but alt text is going to be the most important. And there are things that are probably more important than the titles, the heading structure, the color, that kind. Okay. So if you're building a new site,
Oh. She got a little crazy with it. Whoa. I like that. That's a good slide.
so starting from scratch, it is always easier to be proactive rather than reactive. So if you are starting with a new site, keeping accessibility in mind from the very beginning will save you a lot of headaches in the long run. And it's a lot of it starts with design. And this is going to be a change for some designers. It's going to come down to layouts. It's going to come down to fonts and colors. And making sure that they start checking contrast from the very beginning. I've had several designers I work with that really like colored text on top of very similar colored backgrounds for things that they don't think are as important, but it makes it completely unreadable. And so we have to have a conversation of, I know you think it looks better like this, but it does me no good if they can't use it.
Real.
And so you just have to be upfront and tell them this. You have to stay within these parameters. For the layouts, as long as you make sure that when you zoom in to 200%, or you increase your font size to 200%, that the layout still holds, that you can still see everything you need to, that nothing is hidden or overlaps, and prevents you from doing anything. And then again with the fonts. Once you have the design and you're actually building it, choose an accessible theme. So WordPress, the repository does have an accessibility ready tag. I don't know enough about it and how helpful it actually is. I know it's there, so it probably means they're probably better than others. I was on the website I told you about that gives reviews on page builders, and Cadence was actually one of the better ones as far as accessibility. It passed just about all of their tests, and so that's what we use. But just start looking into page builders and things. And if you can, going with someone to build the sites who has knowledge of accessibility and can make sure that everything's accessible from the beginning, is probably not a bad idea. Plugins are going to be the same thing. There are plugins that talk about accessibility. I look for ones that have a good reputation. If honestly, the site I use, Equalize Digital, that's kind of my go-to for testing. And because I know they have a lot of visually impaired, a lot of people who have to use the different tools for accessibility, test everything on a regular basis. And so they're normally the best option to see how the themes and plugins are doing. That would be my first stop. The other thing, content creation. They have done quite a bit of work. They have tried to do quite a bit of work with the native block editor in WordPress to make sure it's accessible. It is not 100% accessible, but it is better than some of the other options. Yes.
Do you know some of the accessibility features there of the block editor? Like what? Do you have any examples or?
Let me give you an article
Okay.
that I was looking at yesterday.
Okay.
And it goes through, it has, and I can put this in the chat too, I'll find it afterwards. It has a breakdown of all the different things they tested, and then it tested all the page builders as well as Gutenberg block editor. And it showed what everyone passed and like the different things they were testing. So it was super helpful.
Okay.
I'll put that in there. But when you're building your content, start from the very beginning, adding captions to images, using lists. Using lists will help screen readers, using the proper headings in the correct order. Make sure that your sitemap is easy and that your site has a natural flow that takes people from learning about you to buying. Make sure everything is easy to use, easy to understand, and follows the natural process, and things aren't hidden. Okay. Those are going to be the main things. when you're building a new site that are gonna be different from when you're just working on an existing site. And then again, the same things, the keyboard navigation, the image alt tags, color contrast, make sure all of those carry over. The fun thing about accessibility is it is not a one-time task. Any code update from a plugin, any code update from a theme, any added image, any added content can break accessibility. So it's something that you have to just keep in mind as you go on, every day you're working on the site. For those who have government contracts, government websites, those are gonna be the ones that are required to be accessible. They need to hit the WCAG AA requirements. And so if you have to hit that, that is once you test it, that is a one-time thing. That you said, this website meets this accessibility on this date when I tested it. Again, any change can break that, and so you need to check and make sure on a regular basis that your site is accessible. Small changes. I mean, just by going in and fixing the color contrast, if you go in, color contrast, image alt tags, foreign field labels, those are the big ones that are the issue most of the time. So if you go in and you start making those changes, you're gonna make a big impact. After that, don't autoplay anything. If you have videos, they need to have transcripts so people can read them. Just start with what you can do and keep learning and keep making progress. It's a gradual thing.
Can you explain, what do you mean by a form label?
Sure.
I'm not sure what you mean.
So Lynn was asking about what a form label is. See this right here, we're redoing our website because that is not accessible at all. So this right here is a form label. The first name, just hit okay what the
Okay. That's what I thought, but I wasn't sure.
just so that they know what the field is and what they're supposed to put in.
Okay.
These are the resources that I use the most. Easy A11Y guide. If you see A11Y, it means accessibility. They decided the word was too long. So Jen Harris is the one that maintains that website. She does a fantastic job of keeping up to date with everything and providing lots of resources if you want to start learning about accessibility. Equalize Digital as well. They put out a plugin that will scan your website. It doesn't work, it doesn't put the overlay on it, but it will look at the back end and it does a really good job of telling you some things that you should start fixing. And then they have a lot of resources. They do monthly webinars. Those two, if you want to learn, that's where I would start. Webaim.org, that is where that contrast checker is, and they have a lot of different automatic testing. And these web content accessibility guidelines, those are the standards everyone goes by. So the ones I've been seeing lately is they have different versions. I think they're on 2.2, 2.3 right now. A lot of the RFPs I've seen put out say they want to hit 2.1 AA standards. They have an A level, AA, and AAA. AA is kind of the base where if you're going to start working on accessibility, I would try to get there. AAA is if you are government or if you're working with a if your target audience is the disabled community, then you need to make sure you're hitting AAA. Let me see, and then I can show you that. Okay, so Equalize Digital did this page builder comparison. There's a lot to read. They have a whole video on it. They tested a whole bunch of them. They go through what they tested, how they tested. But this,
What's it called again?
it's Equalized Digital, WordPress page builder accessibility.
Okay. That's not the article you were talking
Yes,
about.
this is it.
Oh, okay.
So if you see here, and this is not the only table, they have tables going all the way through. This just talks about navigation. So here are all the things they tested. Here are all the page builders they tested. See, it goes, it did a lot. And then here's how everyone did. So you can see WordPress core did pretty well, Cadence did pretty well. Breakdance didn't do terrible. Elementor did okay. But yeah, this is very, very helpful. I mean, they have one for the header. They have one for page builder accordion accessibility. They go through everything. And I can put that in the chat. Oh. Oklahoma able tech to this list. They have a free local conference in February, March. It's geared mostly towards publicly funded groups, but there's always really valuable info. Thank you. I didn't know about that. That'll be helpful. All right. Anyone have questions?
We've interrupted you throughout the whole
That's
thing.
okay.
Taylor was paying attention to the question I asked, not the question he asked. Did you talk about the CAPTCHA thing again?
The captcha thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say as long as they don't have to interact with it, if it's invisible and it's behind the scenes just doing its thing, you don't need a label. I would only add a label if they have to interact or do something. All right. This is my information. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'd love to chat. We are having another meetup next month. Tim, myself, and Crystal Oaks with Oaks Creative House will be doing a panel on owning and running a web agency. Same. It's the 4th Wednesday of the month at 10 a.m. We'd love to see everyone. Cool. Other than that, I think we're done today. Unless anyone has any questions about WordPress, accessibility, any of the things.
Can we get a copy of that presentation?
Yes. I can send you.
So I have a dumb question, maybe. Why is one builder more accessible than the other, like Beaver Builder versus Elementor?
It just comes down to how they were built. And if they, when we talked about how when you build a new website and you're coding it, you can keep accessibility in mind from the beginning.
Mhm.
A lot of them did not. When they started coding them, the accessibility wasn't as big a thing
Mhm.
that people were concerned about. And now that's a lot of legacy code to go back through. And so some of them are doing a good job of going back through,
Mhm.
but it's just a lot of work. And so it just depends on if they make it a priority or not. Because the way they code it, the way they set up, you know, the link navigation, the way they do a lot of different things can have a big effect.
Mhm.
Does that help?
It does. So if you were gonna switch builders or pick builders for dummies, you would probably pick Cadence again, or
If I was doing it, yeah. The thing about Cadence is it works alongside WordPress core, with the blocks. It's in the block editor. Some people don't find it as intuitive as Elementor or Beaver Builder. And so I know especially if you haven't had a big learning curve, or if you haven't worked on websites a lot, it can be a little harder. One thing when we are building sites for clients, we make templates. So like there's a row template for this design, there's a row template for this, and so all they're doing is adding content into it. Rather than like actually trying to manipulate and change designs and that kind of thing. And so we changed it to where it's a lot easier for your general user to add content. But I think it would probably still be harder for someone who's just jumping in. Okay. So it's a catch-22. All right, I think that's it. Thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you, Sarah.